We got another 2-for-1 deal coming up here for you folks. This is good stuff. We found some pork chops that we're going to turn around and make 2 different dishes. So we've got coming up for you a pork teriyaki, the noodles, as well as a noodle soup. So what is teriyaki? It's definitely not a sauce, but it's a cooking technique. You're either going to grill or broil the meat, and it's coated with a glaze that is referred to as a tare, made with soy sauce, mirin, and sugar. Teriyaki is a shine developed by the sugar in the tare as a result of cooking, either by grilling or broiling. Now, some chefs will reduce this down to a thick sauce. Some will leave it a little bit thin. They may even add some fresh ginger, and you may even see some plating that has spring onions on it as a garnish. Now, teriyaki, this cooking technique, is thought to have emerged in the 17th century in Japan. Nowadays, it's used as a marinade and as a dipping sauce as well. So when Japanese immigrants settled in Hawaii, they created a newer version of tare that uses pineapple juice, brown sugar, ginger, garlic, and sesame. And it was the 1960s that marinade became extremely popular, with Japanese restaurants opening in the USA. So globally, teriyaki sauce continues to remain influential. Places like India, Peru, fusion establishments around the world. As usual, I do a lot of reading, sharing some resources here available. The last link there is actually to a book online. You don't have to sign up for it. Great reading, lots of good facts. Get a cup of coffee, as usual. So now the marinade, I have developed 2 versions. If you're gluten-free, you can use tamari. If you're not gluten-free, soy sauce. Good old school soy sauce is going to do it. Honey is wicked expensive, so you have an option of either cane sugar or brown sugar. All in all, you can find these ingredients everywhere. It's up to you on which one you want to use. So, power of decision making right in your hands. So for the marinade that you choose, grab a small pot, use low to low medium heat. You're going to cook the marinade down, but you don't want to boil it. So the key here is we want to dissolve that sugar and dissolve it down so you can bring the viscosity to your own liking. Pay close attention, don't walk away. Sugar is going to burn fast. You certainly don't want that. And when you've reached that viscosity that you're looking for, remove it from heat and let it cool. This is the marinade for your pork chops, your pork sirloin. Marinate for at least 2 hours, but you want to reserve that marinade. And as you can see, this is actually 2 hours later. There's a beautiful caramelly brown color to the fat and to the meat of the pork chops. This is definitely what I'm looking for. And as shiny as it is here, it cooks up beautifully. Unfortunately, the day that we made this, we wanted to go outside and grill, but it was such a downpour, it was nutty. So we did go ahead and use a fry pan. Pause the video. This is the stir-fried noodle portion. And again, we're going to come back to the decision making is yours. I used fresh noodles. You can use dry. I have no issues with MSG. You can use kosher salt. I had shallots. You can use onions. Entirely up to you. I've got a few garnish suggestions at the bottom. I know some folks don't like cilantro. That's okay. Mint is beautiful in this, by the way. Wicked good. Pairs very well. Now for the soup option, choose your stock. Use the leftover marinade and use the bones of the pork chops after you've cut them. Bring this up to medium heat, 10 to 12 minutes. We want to make sure that you're bringing it up to temperature because you are using the marinade. Remove this from the heat. You can take the bones out. If there's any impurities, they're going to float to the top. It's going to make it for easy removal. Taste test this and see if you need to make adjustments. Honestly, I don't think you will, but give it a shot. I've had a few people ask me what kinds of things I do in the kitchen to get myself set up. Good personal mise en place. So here are some great suggestions listed here. If you're into hot peppers like I am, like I need a separate cutting board for that. My husband cannot handle any level of heat. So I actually have to use a separate cutting board if I'm playing with any chilies. Gloves are great when you're working with hot peppers. Let me tell you, personal experience, we won't go there. So we're now going to take a look at your common cuts. In the recipe, I reference bias. It's common in Asian dishes that the scallions are going to be cut at a 45-degree angle. They call it a bias cut. It's not just for the appeal of what you're seeing on the plate. Scallions give you a great garden flavor. It's a beautiful garnish as well. Hey, it's an ingredient that's multitasking. How can you deny that? It's great stuff. So, of course, with knife cuts, be mindful of your finger positioning while you're cutting. Slicing. I don't care who you are. Everyone knows slicing. It's the first primary cut you all learn. Now, the type of dish you're making dictates the thickness or thinness of the ingredient you're working with. So, we have a stir fry in this. There's sauces, soups, condiment toppers. You're going to want to keep things on the thin side. And that's ultimately what we're aiming with these shallots, or if you decide to use onions in the dish. Stir fry, I'm going to put the veggies in eventually into the pan. I'm not going to thoroughly cook them because I still have the noodles off to the side. Now, julienne. Julienne is a matchstick. This cutting technique is something that folks are familiar with, but they're not aware that it's actually 3 millimeters thick. That's pretty cool. And it's also kind of intimidating for some folks, and it's okay. It's a great way to practice your control with the knife and good positioning of your fingers. I think when I started learning how to cut, julienne was the first thing I actually learned. It was a great way to get steady with the knife. And I got crooked fingers, so I needed all the help I could get when I was playing with the knife. These ultimately will go into the dish with the purpose of still having a toothsome feel. So that's the beauty of a stir fry. It's supposed to cook fast. Now here's another option on doing a julienne cut. This tool I have has multiple blades, kind of like teeth. And this is going to help me achieve a faster approach to doing julienne cuts. It's kind of like little mini threads, if you will. Much like a spiral cutting tool, this one doesn't do the spiral, but I'm still getting a julienne cut with this. They're like $3 all the way up to $50. You can go to an Asian market. Most of them will have like kitchenwares. That's where I found this one. And they're going to give you a beautiful cut. Mincing. It's very common to have something minced, especially in stir fries and soups. So ginger, garlic, scallions, onions. It combines slicing, julienne, fine dicing. And then if you go even further, you can press it to make a paste-like consistency, or simply a super fine cut, much smaller than a brunoise. Now, you don't have to be extra perfect on this, so don't let it worry you too much. But certainly, have at it. Give it a shot. Grab that pork, folks. You know this marinated well when it did its job. Look at the pork. Look at the gorgeous color. As you get that pan, the grill, the broiler, if you get them nice and hot, make sure you're draining and reserving that marinade. That marinade we're going to put in the stock pot for the soup option. Now, as you can see, the goal is to work with medium-high heat to get a nice sear on that pork. Either grill, broil, or in this case, pan fry. If you're using a pan, do not touch the pork, let it get a nice sear. That nice brown sear is just going to be a few minutes. Now, the marinade has to go in the soup pot of this. Now, depending on the thickness of the pork chops, it shouldn't take long to get a nice sear. Once both sides have been seared, you can pull them out of the pan. Look at that gorgeous color. See how that shines? We've achieved the same results as a tare. Let's talk noodles. So if you're lucky enough to have an Asian market, they often have fresh noodles or fresh frozen noodles available. But they also have the dried option, which is often more affordable, especially today. I'm choosing to use fresh ramen noodles, which had to be par-cooked ahead of time. So whatever you choose to work with, just pay attention to the package directions. Make sure they're only par-cooked. They're going to get finished off in the pan when you start adding them towards the end. Make sure they're drained well, and bring all your prepped items to the cooking area, including that pork, which should be sliced thin at this point, and the bones are put into the soup stock pot. So in the pan, we've got some vegetable oil, and I've got my items off to the side here, including my carrots. They're so pretty. And I've got my par-cooked noodles off to the side, nice and drained. And just a key note, I'm working with MSG, white pepper, keeping it very simple. I'm a firm believer that you have to make the decision on your own if you use MSG or kosher salt. There's nothing wrong with MSG. MSG is found in normal ingredients that we're already consuming unless you have other medical conditions or allergies. And it's important to know that you're in charge. It's up to you. It's beautiful. You control how much seasoning you like. I've got an extra batch of the marinade off to the side cooking. We're going to use it as a stir-fry sauce for this. Hey, versatility. Wicked, wicked important here. So I don't measure out white pepper or MSG, so use your own palate. And we're going to hit this pan with the shallots, the garlic, and the ginger. And I'm also going to toss in those bell pepper strips. Now this is going to cook wicked fast. That's why we wanted to make sure everything was cut as universally as possible. And to be very honest with you, I know it's a lot of work, but it really does make a difference at the end. And yes, the tool is not used for this purpose. I don't care. In fact, it works perfectly for this. I'm going to be able to cook everything evenly, break it up. I'm not going to spend the time trying to break up every little shallot ring here. That'll drive you insane. I'm going to add my carrot threads here. I found some beautiful heirloom carrots that had to come home because I love the color. It's just so pretty. And we're going to let the heat touch this, but at the same token, we've already got white pepper in here. So I'm going to take a moment just to show you we are being very careful about how far we cook this. You're going to see some color changes eventually because of the heat hitting the vegetables here. Shallots will start losing their beautiful white color, and it's going to start showing a subtle change. I'm already seeing it here in this clip. Peppers will look a bit more vibrant. And of course, at this point, I need to add my salt element, so I'm using MSG. And if you take a moment to look it up, MSG has less sodium than kosher salt. It's actually, believe it or not, a better option for you. You don't need as much. You could certainly still get the same flavors. Of course, under the direction of your own doctor, that is your decision that you have to make for yourself. And you know what? The funny part about MSG, there's such a stigma out there, which is really ridiculous. We're already consuming MSG in fresh tomatoes, in mushrooms, in Parmesan cheese. We even produce it in our own bodies. Some folks don't realize that. So don't be afraid if you want to try MSG. But certainly if it's out of your comfort zone, use kosher salt to your own liking. So after only a few minutes, I can see color changes in the food in the pan. And now I'm seeing that the carrot threads are not as stiff. They're now giving me that perfect appearance. I see them relaxing a little bit. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of my marinade here because we want to impart flavor. We're about to hit this pan with the noodles. And as you can see, we're actually using very little. We don't want a whole lot of the marinade. I give it a good look first before I start adding any more. At this point, we're stir frying this with a little bit of the marinade for only 3 to 4 minutes. Now we're going to add in the noodles. And they're nice and fresh. You can see that they're not sticking together. That's the beauty of fresh noodles. Oh my God, there's something beautiful about fresh noodles, I have to tell you. If you haven't tried them, pick up a small package. Even if you spend $3 or $4, just give it a shot. There'll come a time when I think we're going to finally see these prices come down. I have to hope. I have to have a lot of hope, you know. It doesn't take much to make them from scratch, to be honest, but I like to support my local Asian store. Now, I put in probably about a pound to a pound and a half of noodles, to be very honest. So I know I'm going to need to adjust my seasonings. So I'm putting in more MSG into my pan. You may not need to use as much with the kosher salt, of course. Same goes with the white pepper. White pepper is very common in Asian dishes. I like to always have it on hand. So now that we've got more seasoning, I'm going to toss this around. And I'm going to make sure that that flavor is moving all around. And because we have so many more noodles than normal, I'm going to put in a little more of this marinade here. And we're going to toss to coat this. And you'll see the noodles will be taking on that marinade quite fast. It does not take long. That's the nice part about it. All the effort put into doing the prep work, it does take time, but when you cook it up, oh my God, there's nothing more beautiful when you see a dish finally come to the plate. It makes me feel happy, and I'm putting a big meal for my husband. Although if he had his way, he'd probably have all of this in the pan, to be very truthful. Yeah, he seems to think he can eat for 2 to 3 people. He does a good job at it. I can't. I can barely get through half a serving. So as you can see, the noodles, they're looking beautiful. We don't want to overcook them. That's the beauty of doing a half cook on them or a par cook. We can see that the marinade has hit those noodles beautifully. And because we're finishing that cooking process, we want to be extra careful about the heat and about the time. Pork can be cooked to order, by the way. So if it's slightly pink in the middle, that's okay. As it rests out of the pan, it continues to cook. The noodle stir fry shouldn't take more than 4 to 5 minutes, depending upon the noodle type or the noodle thickness. Because let's face it, there are so many noodles out there that you can get your hands on. So for the soup version, take half of the finished pork, vegetables, and noodles, set it aside. We're going to take a pot, heat up the stock, and add the remaining marinade and pork bones. Bring it up to temperature and simmer for about 10 minutes. Medium-high heat will do it really well. Then you can remove the bones and any remnants that float to the top and just taste test. So as far as garnishes, the decision is all yours, and this is going to help make a beautiful dish even better. It's a great way to doll up the plate with things like English cucumber, cilantro, chili, sesame seeds. I'll tell you, English cucumber really makes a beautiful soup bowl even better. It's a very nice, refreshing flavor. So here we are, we're at the end with this noodle stir-fry version with the pork teriyaki. And then up next, we're going to show you what the noodle soup bowls look like. Same concept, same ingredients, but we've switched it up with a beautiful stock base. I can't thank you enough for joining me. I hope you look forward to trying this. We enjoyed it immensely, and I think it's going to be a big hit. Hope you guys are doing well. Take care and have a great day.